Put my divorced parents who hate each other in the same nursing home. Karma is a Mom and Dad. I appreciate how you always included me in your childhood drama. It's very unfortunate that you two thought it was funny to act like kids while making me take on the role of an adult. The roles have now been reversed. You both need someone to look after you because you're elderly. It was clearly not going to be me. I hope you two can work it out and enjoy one another's company for the remainder of your wretched lives. Did you know your mother or father are in the same nursing home? Is the call I'm waiting for. Yes. I will now relax and savor my cold beverage. My mother accidentally emailed her will. She was a single mom to 4 kids, so I give her credit and cut her a lot of slack. More than she deserves. I sort of became the expendable child whose value was determined on how much money I gave to my mom to help her out. I hated that it was expected of me. I had something unfortunate happen to me and my family pretty much left me to die. I wouldn't have abandoned my family like they did to me. That led to estrangement. I didn't even know that my brother had 2 kids. My mom is getting older and is becoming a burden to my siblings. They're putting up with it because they're cleaning out her bank and retirement accounts and running up her credit cards. That's their relationship. Recently, they all asked me to chip in and help my mom out. Everything from doctor's appointments, taking her out for walks, and grocery shopping. I told my mother that I'm not doing all that for free. I'm not spending my time and my money to help you out when you're paying my siblings' bills and giving them cash. She said I'd be taken care of after she dies because she's leaving me a lot of money in her will. Over emails, I told her that I didn't believe her and asked her to send me a copy of this will. If I'm a beneficiary, then I should have a copy anyways. My mother is old and not as sharp. She accidentally did send me her will. This bitch excluded me. The whole scam was to convince me that I was going to be compensated for taking care of my mother, which would free up my siblings' time and would save money for my mom, who would turn around and give it to them. How can a parent ask their kid to take care of them and then exclude them from their will so the other kids who didn't help out can get a bigger piece of whatever was left? I called my mom out for trying to scam me. I'm not mad she excluded me from her will. She owes me nothing. But I also owe her nothing. I'm mad she would fuck me over. It's been 3 months since she's fucked up and not a peep. Yeah, I wonder why. She's embarrassed that she got caught, and I hope your siblings are equally as embarrassed, because are they even, like, grown-ups at this point? I doubt it. One of them's got 2 kids and they let your mom do this? Screw them too. I ate a battery as a kid and never told my parents. When I was a kid, I somehow ended up swallowing one of those small watch batteries. Don't ask me how. I panicked for a bit, but nothing happened. No pain, no problems. I just went on with my day like it never happened. I never told my parents, and to this day, I still have no idea how I didn't get sick or anything. Probably the dumbest thing I ever did as a kid that had 0 consequences. Well, I guess if you're gonna swallow any battery, that would be the lowest risk one to swallow, but I like that. I somehow ended up swallowing. Yeah, don't ask me how. I know you remember, and I know it's incredibly dumb and would probably be embarrassing. You were a kid, okay? You probably went, wonder what would happen. Swallows battery. Oh, wait a minute. I hate my dead brother, and I resent my parents for refusing to acknowledge how much of a failure he was. These are complicated emotions, so I'll try to be as brief as I can. I had a brother who would be 43 if he were still alive today. My brother was a star high school athlete and would have college scouts attend his games. Everyone talked about how he would play in the NFL and make millions of dollars. I, being much younger, practically worshipped him. But toward the end of his junior year, the unthinkable happened. He sustained an injury to his knee that ended his football career. Our family is well off, so he didn't need a scholarship to attend college. Even still, my brother had his heart set on playing college football and never quite accepted that dream was over for him. He attended 2 different schools, dropping out both times due to alcohol and substance abuse. My parents tried to help out, but he spiraled. He went from job to job, friend's couch to friend's couch, until he finally met a woman who was just as messed up as he was. They had a kid together, my nephew, now 14. But that wasn't enough to make him shape up. He drank a bottle of liquor, wrapped his car around a tree one night, and there you have it. I was in graduate school at the time, and my parents gave my nephew's mom a pile of money to relinquish her parental rights and give my nephew over to them. She accepted, and eventually OD'd in a crack house a few years later. My parents had custody of my nephew for the first couple of years, but since they're both in their 70s and can't keep up with a young kid, he's lived with me since he was 10. I want to make it clear that I don't resent my nephew. I mean it when I say that he's the best thing in my life, and I look very much alike. My brother and I also look very much alike, and most people think that he's my son, even if they look at me a little what? For being so young with a teenager in tow. Last weekend was his freshman homecoming dance, and my parents came over to take a picture of him and his date. The comments they made were nauseating. So handsome. You look so much like your dad. He would be so proud. I stood in the background wanting to scream. What did my brother ever do for his son? Why didn't he think this wonderful boy was worth living for? Who's actually been there for my nephew for all of the big moments in his life? Not his dad, that's for sure. But of course, I can't say any of this out loud. My parents won't hear a word against my brother, and as for my nephew, I dare not say any of this in front of him because I don't want him to hate the part of him that comes from his dad. So instead, I confess these feelings to you fine people. Judge me, Reddit. I am glad that you confess these to strangers or these feelings to strangers and don't mention any of it to the family members. You know, he's allowed to love his dad. Your parents are allowed to love him too. As someone who's suffered from substance abuse, it's not always, them being a complete purposeful asshole. Depression makes you do horrible things. Yeah, it makes you do those things, okay? It's not like I can just go, oh, wait a minute, I could just be happy and it's all over. It's not how it works. So I get where you're coming from, for sure. You make great points. But on the other side of that coin, maybe your brother wasn't the devil, okay? That's just my 2 cents on that matter. I witnessed my friend's girl cheating on him. Oh boy. So long story short, I witnessed the girl of a really good friend of mine cheating on him. I wasn't gonna get involved, but the guy she was cheating on him with saw me back. Neither her nor my friend know that I know. Only that guy does. This happened 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure if that guy mentioned anything to the girl. I would have done it if I was him, so that she is aware. My instincts are all telling me to stay out of it. In the end, I'll tell him and they fight, then go back together, and then I'm branded the guy who came between them. And then my friend avoids me because he doesn't want to be a cuck in my eyes. But my reason tells me if I keep shut and he discovers and they break up, then I was the guy who knew and betrayed him by not telling him. Yeah, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Is your friend actually the type of guy to get pissed off that you warned him about this? Because if so, maybe find a different friend. Not to put this on this guy, by the way. That's not what I mean to do. I'm thinking about slipping him an anonymous note with all the details and let him figure it out and confront her. Any ideas you guys have where I don't lose the friendship? I guess I was being selfish. I'll tell him in a few hours face to face. Already scheduled to pick him up after work to help me move something, just so that no alarms are raised until I actually tell him. We'll share how it went. Told him. He just sighed and got sad and started explaining himself to me. He basically is blaming himself for working too much. Told him nothing justifies it. I think it is likely they will break up now, as he doesn't seem to be the kind of guy to forgive or forget a betrayal. Well, that's a weight off of my chest. And you thought that he's not the type of guy to forgive or forget a betrayal, and you thought that he was going to get back together with her and hate you for being the guy that came between them? I matched with a girl on Hinge. She didn't look anything like her profile, so I got my friend to call me and say he was in the hospital, so I had an excuse to leave. I matched with this girl on Hinge. We were texting back and forth and called for over 2 hours. The chemistry seemed good over the phone, and she was pretty on her profile. She invited me over after about a day of talking. I was really looking forward to it since we had good chemistry over the phone at least. However, the second she opened the door, my excitement was completely eradicated. She was not recognizable to her profile, and in a bad way. I obviously didn't tell her what I thought, but in the back of my mind, I was pretty pissed off, but grateful I didn't spend months texting her. So I texted my friend, call me in 30 minutes and make some BS up. I got catfished on Hinge. He does just that. Says he's in the hospital because he got into a boating accident at 8 p.m. on Tuesday. I explained the situation and tell her I should probably go. I think she knows it was a bullshit. It was bullshit. Wow. But she didn't say anything. When I got home, I started feeling very guilty, and in hindsight, I wish I just tanked it and stayed an extra hour or so, as she probably felt pretty awful after I left. But at the same time, she put a very unrealistic representation of herself on her dating profile. My friend said I should have told her that she didn't look like her profile and just left. But to me, that's more mean, but it is the truth. Please tell me, guys, how should I have handled this? I mean, I don't know. Are you getting it that she was heavier? Like she gained some weight or something? What are you getting at that you're so afraid to say here? Because you say, not recognizable to her profile. In a bad way. See, we don't know what that means. Is she literally a completely different person? Or was it just an older photo or something like that? You actually spent that long? I've been there. I stayed, had half a drink, said the pics you shared are obviously not you. I appreciate it, but I'm leaving. Asked why. Said if you're willing to lie about something as basic as what you look like, that's something I'd find out immediately. I definitely couldn't trust anything beyond that. I see that 100%. I do maybe 20 minutes of work per week at my salaried job. I work from home for a company where I've reached the peak of my job title, at least at this company. I'm the only person of my role at my company. My boss is the manager of 5 other people, all different roles as well. This whole place is incredibly mismanaged and chaotic. I do maybe 20 minutes of work a week. Monday, I'm given my task, and for the rest of the week, I dick around on Reddit and YouTube until Thursday when I sit down and power out the solution in 20 minutes. On Friday, we review it, and usually it's given a pass and that's it. And they think it took me all week to do this. I'm bored as hell. I hate going on Reddit and YouTube, but I don't have the energy nor ambition to do anything else. I get paid very well and pass all of my reviews with flying colors. They all think I'm working hard, but I don't do shit. I hate it and love it at the same time. I hate it because after 2 years of this, I've completely lost my work ethic. I wish I could do something more, but I'm almost 40. Who gives a shit? I don't know. At this point, it seems like you're due for a hobby. Find something you can spend this easy income on, and that might help you out a little bit. I found out my husband has been making life decisions based on his ex's note. Background on my husband: he was a fat, lonely kid, often bullied, no friends. Then he met Maya, his first and only friend. Like my husband, Maya was also a misfit, came from a dysfunctional family, and they became best friends. When they were 15, Maya was... She was badly injured and in a coma for 2 weeks. The perpetrators, as they were minor, weren't jailed, I believe. They got out with minor punishments. This is the story I've heard from my husband and in-laws. Maya decided to end her own life right after she woke up and only wrote one letter of goodbye, which was addressed to my husband. I had never read this letter as I wanted to preserve his privacy, and it always felt too personal. On to my story. I've been noticing weird things about my husband for a while. We had our first baby when we were 27. I wanted to wait a little before our second, but my husband wanted one, and when he turned 30, he would mumble things like, "It has to be 30, it should be at 30. At 30, I had my second kid, a girl, named her Maya. Now I often find him hugging her or crying, asking an infant if he is doing a good job at being a father. We have to go on yearly vacations even when our kids were babies and were busy. He forced us on a vacation. Now that he's turning 35, he insists we buy a bigger house. Again, keeps mumbling the house is at 35. Well, I read the letter. It was laminated and filed. He keeps it in a safe along with other important documents such as, deeds and whatnot. It was a very sweet letter. Basically thanked him for being there for her and that she concluded it with wishing he lives his perfect life. Life where he graduates at 24, marries at 26, has babies at 27 and 30, moves into a big house at 35, always goes on fancy vacations, ends with him being 90, reading stories to his grandkids. She also tells him to be a good father and husband. If he ever gets tired, she wants him to think for her suffering because of her family. Now that I've read everything, and I know that my husband has been planning his entire life based on that letter, I feel so weird. I had to tell someone. I don't blame you for feeling weird. I don't even know. There's nothing I can or should say. I have eaten almost exclusively peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for years. You sicko! I'm 27 years old, a grown adult, and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches make up a solid 90% of my diet. Breakfast is a PB&J. Sometimes I'll toast the bread, mix it up a little. Lunch is 1 or 2 PB&Js, maybe with a side dish like an apple if I'm feeling really hungry. Dinner is 2 PB&Js. I take vitamins every day to make sure I'm getting my nutrients that I don't get from my sandwiches. It's not that I don't like other food. I've just never found a food I liked as much as them. When I still lived with my parents, I was careful to hide this habit from them. I would eat toast for breakfast every day, and lunch was, of course, my PB&J. When my mom made dinner, I would take a small portion and pretend to eat it, then have peanut butter and jelly later. God damn, you really like them. I mean, I do too, but Jesus. I thought I would grow out of it by the time I started college until I realized how easy and cost-effective it is to just buy bread, jelly, and peanut butter and call it a day. When the roommates stressed about cooking and groceries, I knew my trusty PB&J would always be there for me. We shared a fridge and were always too busy with classes for anyone to notice what I ate. Now that I live alone, I don't have to worry about anyone judging me for my eating habits, and I couldn't be happier. I keep my diet a secret because I know it's unusual and I don't want... Well, sure, unusual, but what I would do, if this is really gonna be it for a long, long time, I would definitely let your doctor know. Hey, doc, this is how I eat. And I take supplements and I try to make sure that I'm not devoid of certain vitamins and minerals and whatnot. Is this bad? Because I've got a sneaky suspicion that, as time goes on, your body's gonna start getting pissed off. But again, I would just talk to your doctor about that, because if doc is like, sure, that's fine, then cool, dude, go for it. I'm very tempted to turn my client into the police. I just started working as a child psychologist 2 months ago in August after finally finishing my master's. So far, as I start from the bottom, my job has been assessing and diagnosing problematic adolescents. I've had a dozen clients so far, most of whom have been very easy to work with. Girls with eating disorders, boys with drug problems, nothing too hard. My last client, 16, who I will call X, however, left me somewhat disturbed. When I first met X, his mom dropped him off and left for our hour-long session. At first, he seemed to be very calm and even a handsome young boy. He described to me why his parents urged him to go through with the sessions. Most of it was due to being antisocial, such as sibling bullying and arson, stealing, pathological lying, including the physical abuse he was subject to by his parents growing up. However, he told me towards the end that he had killed 3 cats. Me, personally, an animal lover, my view completely shifted. I was disgusted as he described the way he took these cats out, stating that he strangled the first 2 and crushed the third with his foot, even using a hammer to weaken the second cat before he killed it. He also explained how his mom, dad, and family have no idea of these acts. I kept a straight face throughout and tried to act professional despite knowing X is completely deranged. Now here's the issue. I have to see him in 3 days for another session, and my work right now is to make a formal diagnosis on the boy and select his treatment method if there will be a diagnosis, which I haven't decided, although conduct disorder seems extremely likely. However, I feel disgusted by this psychopathic child, and I'm not sure if I can do another session with him. I'm afraid I might act unprofessional due to how appalling I found his actions. He also stated he felt no remorse or guilt. That does sound like textbook psychopathy or psychopathy, however you pronounce it. I really feel for you there, but you owe it to the world he could be a danger to finish this. I'm sorry to say, I'd be in the exact same position if I were you. I'd be disgusted and terrified, but again, like I said, you owe it to the community at large that he could start harming one day to finish this and get him treated really, really fast, because he is going to start killing people. He is going to try horrible, horrible things aimed at people soon enough, and torturing cats to death is already a 10 out of 10 on the scale of what the fuck, but he's about to go to 11. Just give him like a decade and he'll be there, okay? So please, I hope that for the love of God, you went through and finished this job. 2 Redditors saved my life back in 2019. I'd gotten out of prison, landed a job, and moved out of a halfway house into my own studio. I became a functional member of society, so of course my family started asking me for money. I ended up losing my job, and due to my felony, I was hesitant to apply for jobs where I was qualified and would make good money. I thought I had an extra week of unemployment benefits, so I used what I had to help my family buy food, even though I wasn't living with them and none of them worked. The next unemployment check would cover my groceries and rent. Well, there was no next unemployment check. I had run out of benefits and was short on rent. I asked Reddit if I could return groceries a week after buying them, and Redditors were confused as to why I was asking such a weird question. I said I was short on rent money, and after thinking that I had another week of benefits, you see. 2 Redditors sent me $75, which was enough to cover my rent. I was not looking for money. I guess they pitied me. A few days later, I unexpectedly was offered a job making $35 an hour. My last job paid me $17.50. I managed to pass a background by faking some stuff. The pandemic hit, and my position became remote. I ended up moving out of my shitty studio with no kitchen sink and view of the parking lot into a spacious apartment by the ocean with fireplace and oversized tub. I've been at my job and my apartment ever since. I cannot emphasize how that $75 saved me. I would have killed myself before living on the streets, and this was before COVID. I know I'm an outlier, and most people would have blown it on other things, but I wish I could let those 3 people know. It was a white girl and an Asian guy. They helped me more than my own family. It's actually kind of crazy to see how, like, $75 to most of us, I would say, it's a lot of money, right? It's a chunk of change for sure. But in the grand scheme, it is a small amount. When it comes to rent, it's a small amount, okay? And how little a number that really is makes it just insane to see how it saved this person's entire existence. I have a small penis, and I feel like a dehumanized piece of trash because of how society treats me. Like, treats you specifically, or just treats men that have small dicks? I have a small dick. I don't want to say how small, but it's always tormented me. Not because it's impossible to find women who don't care, but because of the way others treat and perceive me. Okay, I see, okay. Not because it's impossible to find women who don't care, but I see. Because of something I was born with and have no ability to control, I will always be associated with the worst stereotypes and phrases, and be nothing but a joke in popular culture. Hearing someone say small dick energy is deeply hurtful, and people trying to gaslight me into thinking it's not really body shaming, as some in this thread will do, is even more harmful. No matter how much I try to love myself, the reminders are always there, and everyone laughs, and nobody bats an eye. Nobody says anything. Nobody cares. Having a small dick can be very lonely sometimes, and please don't tell me that it isn't an impediment to pleasing most women. I'm well aware, but it's still an invisible scarlet letter, and the only form of body shaming that no one ever objects to or realizes is wrong. Well, I mean, there's also the height thing, you know. There's a few things about everyone that just always seems to be an okay joke, I guess. Not that I think it's okay. I beg you from the bottom of my heart to please stop making life harder for us. Stop saying people like Trump and Hitler have micro penises. penises. Stop saying people have small dick energy. Stop treating it like it's the worst shame any man could ever have. Stop dehumanizing me. Look, there's not really anything I can say about this one without suddenly people going, hey man, we didn't ask, so I'm just gonna move on. But I get where you're coming from, but I could also see it being more lighthearted than that. There was a guy once I genuinely adored. I had a huge crush on him for years and wanted to date him so bad. He was so sweet and single and all around a great guy. I'd been subtly trying for years to go out with him, but he never agreed. Finally, I just straight up asked if he'd want to go out on a date. It was fantastic. I was so happy. And afterwards, I wanted to kiss him and went for it. He froze and pushed me away, accusing me of making fun of him. I was so confused. I wanted to kiss him and maybe more. Why would he think I was being a dick? He said it was obvious that I was trying to see for myself how pathetic he was, and he'd given me the benefit of the doubt, but now he knew I was just like the other whores who led him on so they could laugh at him. At this point, I was confused and crying. I didn't understand. I asked why he would think this way. I really liked him and had wanted this for years. Why would he think I, as a friend and possible lover, would want to hurt him? He didn't answer, just dropped me off while saying I was just like the rest and blocked me from there. I never saw him again, and the mutual friends we had said he'd ranted about how much of a slut I was and how he was, well, good and rid of me. I asked one of them what I did wrong, and he told me that the guy was extremely insecure because he wasn't very big down there, and he thought I knew and wanted to mock him when I went for a kiss. That's weird. The saddest bit about this is that I enjoy all dick sizes because I care about the people they're attached to. I'd been just as happy to hop on top as anyone else I was attracted to, and figure out how to make us feel good from there. I not only lost a potential partner, but I lost a good friend too because of his own insecurities and assumptions. I'm sorry you feel this way. The world can be unkind to people who don't fit the mold of idealism, but you don't need to be ideal in everyone's mind to be ideal for the right person. I hope you find a way to love yourself as you are, because I promise someone else will, even if you won't believe it. It's a very good sentiment to realize. Yes, seriously. When people make the half joke of, it's not the size of the vessel, it's the motion in the ocean, that is actually true kind of across the board, okay? That is true. Fellas, it's okay. Trust me, it's okay. Your penis is not the most important part of you, no matter what other people have made you think in the past. My wife doesn't know there are anchovies in Worcestershire or Worcester sauce, and I can't tell her. My wife used to like Caesar salads, and then she found out the dressing has anchovies, and now she can't eat it because it grosses her out. She used to love pad thai. When she found out it has fish sauce in it, she can't stand it anymore. She swears she can taste the fish. I recently found out Worcester sauce has anchovies in it, and I cannot tell her, because if I do, I know she won't eat it anymore, and I want to keep using it in recipes for things like meatloaf. Yeah, that shit's kind of weird. That psychological change when you know specifically how the sausage is made. I pretended that my car wouldn't start to get the day off work. They sent someone to my house to pick me up. They win this one. I was hoping to spend the day applying to better paid positions, and there's some chores I need to catch up on, but nope, now I'm going to work. GG, well played. No, I get it. I do get it, but I didn't ask you to send somebody to pick me up. I'm not a child. Go away. I said I'm not coming in. End of the story. I'd be like, no, you tell that jackass to go back, man. No. Thinking about ending relationship with my boyfriend because of his Klinefelter syndrome? We've been together for over a year. I knew from the beginning that something wasn't right, but he didn't tell me that he has Klinefelter syndrome. You gonna explain that, or? Okay, well, he looks good. We're both 25. He's tall and has nice features. He really had this role going in the beginning of the relationship, the I do so much stuff and have goals act. The first time we had sex was an indicator for me that something was not quite right. Really small testicles, female-like genital hair, very small penis, long arms and legs. Okay. Anyway, but since that's not the main point of dating, I looked past it. He was really kind and I had fun with him until we moved in together. I'm an entrepreneur studying at uni as well. Wow. And really high maintenance. I like to live in organized and clean environments. Same. Take care of myself, have clear goals, and see a therapist, and basically understand what my future, or that my future is in my hands, and I can decide what direction I want to go in life. My boyfriend is messy. I didn't know that, since we had always hung out at my place, and he really wanted to portray this image that he had his life together. Once we started to live together, he dropped out of school, doesn't know what job he would like to do, and doesn't really even know who he is. That's okay. We all need time to learn who we are. Now that we're in a year into the relationship, the issues are starting to bug me. He can't empathize with people, talks really slow, has no interest, and doesn't seem bothered by it. Basically, all he does is play PlayStation and constantly visit his parents if I'm busy working because there's always food nearby and mom does my laundry. If I don't talk, clean, take care of him, pay bills, etc., nothing happens. Apartment's full of his mess, clothes, dishes, trash, and we don't talk, not even mentioning the sex. In the last 1 year, we've had sex 3 times, and I am very sexually active women normally, okay? I've talked with my therapist so much about this, tried to politely ask questions about what he would like to do with his life, etc., but the answer is always, I don't know. So recently I found out from his mother that he has XXY chromosomes. Read all about it, and it makes perfect sense. I brought it up with him a month ago, and he wasn't bothered. He said that he should have every 10 weeks testosterone shots, but he's too lazy to book an appointment, and that doesn't bother him. I've talked about wanting to have a family this whole relationship, and he told me that he can't have kids. Anyways, we had a long talk and booked an appointment with the doctor. He didn't go. It was last week. If I bring it up, he just says I'll book it later, and I know that he won't if I don't do it for him. So the confession is that I am a horrible person for wanting to end this. I really want a man who could also mutually support me in life and want me sexually and grow as a human being with me and start a family someday. I feel like I'm holding my own life at pause, taking care of him without getting anything back, and it's okay for some time, but after talking with his mom, it's been going on since he's been a child. This feels horrible to be thinking like this. Some days I just fantasize about a real relationship where we could go do something else other than me taking care of him and him playing games. I feel torn between relationships aren't perfect, he's a kind human and I should help him, maybe someday he'll grow up and it will be worth it, and I need to take care of myself and pursue my dream life without him. I didn't know that was a thing. I'm gonna be real with you, hold on. Genetic condition that occurs when a male has an extra X chromosome. Gotcha. May include breast growth, infertility, osteoporosis, and learning difficulties. Treatments usually involve physical and emotional therapy as well as hormone replacement. I had no idea. It seems like it's pretty rare too. Oh yeah, I don't know. I'd look to the Reddit comments for that one because ain't no way I'm gonna be of any help whatsoever. I forced myself to have a miscarriage behind my husband's back. You might have clicked on this thinking this was some sob story about maybe not being able to afford an abortion. Maybe something like, I had to escape a relationship? This isn't that story. So you were warned, and I don't give a fuck about what the comments have to say. I'm 27, and I've been with my husband since I was 23. I've known since I was 18 I didn't want children. I like kids, just not for me. I'm too selfish, too independent, and like quiet too much. I get it. I've always told my husband that I don't want kids. I'd never want them, and if he wanted a child, we shouldn't be together. He's a criminal lawyer and loves his job. He didn't want kids either. Always maintained that, so together we were happy. I'm on the pill. Half the time he pulls out, shit happens, and I ended up being pregnant about 3 months ago now. Looking down at that positive in the test, I took it as a half-assed joke. It felt like a death sentence. I ran out to tell my husband. It's something he should know. What did he do? A man who deals with horrific criminal cases and never sheds a tear started crying because he was happy. I was disgusted and he was happy. He was hugging me and kissing me, and when I told him I thought he didn't want kids, he said he hadn't until the possibility of a child was here, and now it was all he wanted. That's not the possibility of a child. Your horrified and disgusted wife or girlfriend or whatever, suddenly being pregnant is not the chance. That's not how that works. The chance is, maybe I do want kids, she says. You know what? That does sound great. That's not what this is, my guy. I couldn't tell him this was terrible. How was I meant to tell him I wanted out? Gone. Forgotten. I tried to come to terms with it. I love him more than anyone, so I figured I'd wait for the maternal feeling to overwhelm me, and then he was talking about names and the gender, and I thought I was gonna scream. It felt like betrayal. He promised me he didn't want kids. He made me think I didn't have to give him a baby, and I realized that a child is not something you have to make someone happy. They deserve love and attention, and I didn't want to give it any. I couldn't go to the doctors. He'd find out about, well, the whole thing. He's a lawyer. He can smell bullshit from 10 million miles away, and he knows all the right people. Knows the doctor I'd go to, and knows about the patient confidentiality, but I just knew he'd know, okay? I could feel it in my bones. Besides, I'd come back from surgery all sick and sore, unable to walk, and he'd notice. He's too smart. So I Googled how to miscarry. I drank all the teas, ate all the bad things, and did all the exercises, and made sure to drink alcohol when he wasn't around, and I went out. I took medicine I wasn't meant to. It had been a month, and he was planning to go to the doctors, and I knew I couldn't. Knew they'd figure out what I was up to, so I pushed back and ordered pills online. I took them, destroyed the evidence, and the next thing you know, it's 1 a.m. and I wake up to find myself bleeding. Relief. I got up, threw my underwear in the bin, and put some period underwear on, and took one of my pills my husband uses to help sleep and slept through it. I woke up around the same time as him and looked down and feigned the disaster. I pretended to sob and cry and be distraught, and when he held me through it just fine, he insisted I go to a doctor, but I knew I couldn't with everything in my system, so I acted too upset. My friend friend's a doctor and she checked me out. I'm fine. It's okay. I didn't hurt myself. I know the risks, okay? But an animal trap will gnaw off its own leg to escape. I told him I didn't want kids anymore because I was so traumatized. He agreed and left it be. I'm getting the implant.